If this message has found you, it is because something deeper than coincidence has placed it in your path, and the part of you that still believes in the invisible architecture of love guided your hand to press play at precisely this moment. This is not accident. This is synchronicity, the sacred language of the universe, speaking directly into the wound you have been quietly carrying, the one that opens each morning before you have even fully awakened, the one shaped exactly like their name, their face, their silence. You have been waiting, perhaps for weeks, perhaps for months, that have stretched so slowly they have begun to feel like a different lifetime altogether. And somewhere inside the waiting, a voice has been whispering, not the voice of desperation, not the voice of wounded pride, but a deeper voice, an older voice, the voice that rises from the collective unconscious itself, the vast reservoir of human knowing that Carl Jung described as the ocean beneath every individual soul. That voice has been telling you that this is not over, that what passed between you is not ordinary, that the silence you are living inside is not the silence of an ending. You were led here because that voice was right. The truth about their silence is about to be revealed to you, not the surface truth, not the story your fear has been constructing in the dark hours of the night, but the real truth, the energetic truth, the truth that exists beneath words and text messages and explanations that never came. There is a language being spoken in the space between you, and today you are going to understand every syllable of it. Allow yourself to receive this fully. Do not listen with the part of you that has been hurt. Listen with the part of you that has always known, even when knowing felt like foolishness, that what you shared with this person carries a weight that ordinary connections simply do not possess. That knowing brought you here. Honor it. Write "I received this message" in the comments below, and allow that simple act of declaration to open you to everything that follows. The mind, when left alone with silence and no explanation to contain it, will manufacture the most devastating interpretation available to it. And so you have likely spent considerable time inside a story that tells you their absence means indifference, that their quiet means they have moved through whatever you were to them and emerged on the other side, unbothered and unchanged. This story is a lie. It is the kind of lie that the frightened mind constructs when it cannot tolerate the uncertainty of not knowing, when it reaches for the most painful conclusion simply because pain, at least, feels like solid ground. Their silence is not the absence of feeling. Their silence is overflow. Their silence is what happens when emotion becomes so enormous, so structurally destabilizing, that the ordinary channels of communication collapse entirely under its weight. Consider the image of a pressure cooker sealed too tightly. The heat does not disappear because the vessel is closed. It intensifies. It builds against every interior wall until the pressure itself becomes the dominant force inside the container. This is the architecture of their silence. It is not empty. It is full to the point of rupture, and they have gone quiet precisely because they do not yet know how to open without everything spilling out in ways they cannot control. Carl Jung wrote that what we do not bring to consciousness appears in our lives as fate, and in this person, the enormous feeling they have never learned to carry consciously is now manifesting as the very behavior that is tearing them away from the one thing they most desire. They are not indifferent. They are overwhelmed by their own interior landscape in ways they may not even have the psychological vocabulary to name. The depth of their feeling has become, paradoxically, the source of their withdrawal. Because to remain present to you is to remain present to the full seismic reality of what stirs inside them when you are near. Silence, understood this way, is not rejection. It is a form of self-protection enacted by someone who has not yet learned that the thing they are protecting themselves from is also the thing that could heal them. They pulled away because you are too real to them, too significant, too present in the chambers of their interior life. Distance became their only known management strategy for a feeling that has no manageable edges. Their silence speaks volumes. Every word of it says your name. They wake at 3 a.m. in the particular darkness that has no comfort in it, and in the first unguarded moment before the constructed self reassembles, before the walls go back up and the practiced distance settles back into place, the thought of you arrives with such immediacy and such force that they lie very still, not trusting themselves to move, because movement might mean action, and action might mean reaching for the phone and sending the message that their pride and their fear have been collaborating to prevent. They lie in that stillness, and they feel everything they have been spending their daylight hours refusing to feel. This is the reality of their interior life right now. They are not peaceful in their silence. They are not unbothered, not liberated, not moving effortlessly through days untouched by the memory of what passed between you. They are living inside a war between what they feel and what they believe they are capable of sustaining, between the enormity of their longing and the depth of their terror, between the person they are and the person they would need to become to actually meet you in the vulnerable, undefended space that genuine connection requires. You became the mirror, showing them their unhealed wounds. And this is not a small thing. The mirror effect, as it exists in the deepest relational psychology, describes how certain people in our lives hold up an exact reflection of the parts of ourselves we have most carefully avoided confronting. When you entered their life, something in your presence activated the full landscape of their shadow self. That accumulated territory of unprocessed fear, unacknowledged grief, unintegrated shame that every human being carries in the regions of themselves they do not willingly illuminate. You did not do this intentionally. You did not do this with any weapon or any wound. You did it simply by being so fully, so authentically yourself that your presence made their avoidance impossible to sustain. The shadow self, when activated, does not respond with gratitude. It responds with flight. It responds with silence and disappearance and the desperate construction of distance. Because distance feels safer than the exposure that genuine presence demands. They are not running from you. They are running from the version of themselves that appears in the mirror you hold up, the version that is cracked and frightened and has not yet been met with the compassion it requires. They will have to stop running. The shadow ultimately cannot be outpaced. You are not just anyone to them. This must be understood with the full weight of its meaning, not as flattery, not as consolation, but as precise spiritual and psychological truth. The human heart encounters thousands of people across the span of a lifetime, and the vast majority of those encounters register at the surface level of experience, pleasant, perhaps meaningful in ordinary ways, but fundamentally unthreatening to the deeper architecture of the self. These encounters pass without seismic consequence. The soul accommodates them easily and moves forward without disruption. What happened between you and this person was not that. What happened between you was soul recognition, the particular, unmistakable experience of encountering someone whose frequency matches yours at a level so fundamental that every defense mechanism in the nervous system goes on immediate alert, not because of danger in the ordinary sense, but because of the enormity of what is being offered. The soul knows, even when the mind resists knowing. The soul recognizes its contracts before the conscious self has any language for what is occurring. Carl Jung observed that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction at all, both are transformed. What occurred between you was precisely this kind of alchemical contact, the kind that does not leave either party as they were before, the kind that rearranges something fundamental in the interior landscape and makes return to the previous self not merely difficult, but genuinely impossible. You shook them to their core, not because of anything performed or strategically deployed, but because of what you essentially are, the specific, unrepeatable frequency of your being that resonated with theirs at a depth neither of you chose and neither of you can simply undo. This is why the silence is so loud for them. You cannot easily ignore the aftermath of genuine alchemical contact. You cannot simply file it away in the category of pleasant memories and move forward undisturbed. The soul contract that was activated between you does not dissolve because one party chose distance. It continues to exert its gravitational influence regardless of physical separation, regardless of silence, regardless of the months that have accumulated in the space between your last words and this present moment. They feel the pull even now, perhaps especially now, in the silence they constructed to escape it. There exists a dimension of connection that operates entirely outside the boundaries of physical proximity and conventional communication. a dimension that the materialist mind dismisses and the awakened soul has always understood, a dimension where the energetic signatures of two people who have genuinely recognized each other continue to interact with undiminished intensity regardless of how much silence accumulates in the visible world between them. Distance in the physical does not create distance in the energetic. This is not metaphor. This is the actual mechanics of how profound connection functions beneath the surface of what the ordinary senses can perceive. The thread between you has not been severed. It cannot be severed by silence, by distance, by the weeks or months that have passed without a message or a word or any of the ordinary markers by which the surface mind measures the presence of connection. Energy moves through none of those channels. Energy moves through the invisible architecture of what was genuinely felt, what was genuinely exchanged, what was genuinely activated in the moment of your meeting and every moment that followed. That architecture remains standing. You can feel it even now, in the particular way that thinking of them carries a specific resonance unlike anything else in your experience, in the way that your body responds to their memory with a recognition that the mind alone could not produce. And they feel it too, from wherever they are inside their silence. They feel your energy reaching them in the dreams that arrive unbidden, in the moments when a particular quality of light or sound carries your presence directly into their awareness, without permission or warning, in the inexplicable restlessness that descends when they have gone too long, without honoring what exists between you. The energetic connection that was established between two souls operating from genuine recognition does not respect the boundaries that the frightened ego attempts to install. It moves through walls. It moves through time. It moves through silence the way water moves through stone, not forcefully, but with the patient, persistent certainty of something that simply cannot be stopped. You are present to them even in your absence. This is the power you carry, not as manipulation, not a strategy, but as the simple, irrevocable consequence of having touched something real in the space between two souls. If this truth is resonating somewhere deep in your knowing, subscribe to this channel and continue receiving these divine messages, because what is being revealed to you here is only the beginning of your understanding. Silence is the cocoon before the butterfly, and this truth, simple as it sounds when spoken plainly, carries within it the entire architecture of what is currently occurring in the invisible interior of the person you are waiting for. The butterfly does not emerge because the cocoon was comfortable. It emerges because the transformation inside the darkness reached its completion, because the dissolution and reformation that could only happen in sealed, protected stillness finally produced something that the previous form could never have been. The silence you are living outside of is not emptiness. It is a container for metamorphosis. And what is being remade inside, it is precisely the version of this person who will be capable of meeting you fully. They are doing interior work that they did not choose consciously and would not have chosen if the choice had been presented to them clearly. Because the kind of transformation that genuine soul contact initiates is never comfortable, never convenient, and never completed on the timeline that the ego would prefer. Something in them cracked open at the point of contact with you, and through that crack the light of their own unexamined depths began to enter, illuminating the shadow territories they had spent years carefully navigating around. They are in those territories now. They are learning the geography of their own interior life in ways that your presence made unavoidable. They are becoming the person worthy of this connection, not because they were unworthy before. Worth is not the operative principle here, but because the soul contract between you requires a version of them that has integrated what was previously fragmented, that has faced what was previously fled, that has developed the interior spaciousness to hold the full weight of what genuine intimacy with you demands. This is the work of the silence. This is what the cocoon is doing in the dark. You can feel it, perhaps, in the subtle shift of the energetic current between you. The way the quality of their absence has changed in recent weeks, becoming less solid, less final, carrying within it a faint warmth that was not present at the beginning of this period. That warmth is the signal. That warmth is the heat of a transformation nearing its completion. Something is close to ready. Something in the darkness of their becoming is preparing to open its wings. The cocoon cannot hold the butterfly forever. The universe confirms what the logical mind doubts, and it does so through the precise, repetitive language of synchronicity. Those alignments of outer experience with inner reality that cannot be satisfactorily explained by coincidence alone, that arrive with a specific quality of resonance that the awakened awareness recognizes immediately, even when the analytical mind scrambles for more comfortable explanations. You have been receiving these confirmations. Perhaps you have been dismissing them as imagination, as wishful projection, as the mind's tendency to find patterns that serve its desires. But the pattern you are being shown is not manufactured by longing. It is being arranged by something far more deliberate. When their name appears in unexpected places, not because you are searching for it, but because it simply arrives in overheard conversations, in the background of ordinary moments, in the subtle architecture of encounters that should have had nothing to do with them. This is the universe drawing a line of connection between your present awareness and the energetic movement occurring in the invisible dimension of your shared story. When a particular sequence of numbers appears with unusual frequency in the ordinary course of your days, understand that numerical synchronicity operates as one of the most precise signaling languages available to the collective unconscious, a way of confirming that the energy moving around a specific situation is in active alignment. When songs arrive on the radio, in passing storefronts, in the background of a dream, carrying lyrics that speak with uncanny precision to the specific emotional reality you are living, receive this as confirmation rather than coincidence. When they appear in your dreams with a quality of presence that feels less like memory and more like genuine visitation, when the emotional residue of those dreams persists into your waking hours with unusual vividness and clarity, understand that the energetic dimension of your connection has no boundary between sleeping and waking states, and that their appearance in your inner world often precedes their movement in the outer one. Energy moves before physical action. This is the reliable sequence of how profound change manifests in the material world. The invisible shifts first. The invisible prepares the architecture of what is coming, and then the physical follows the path that has already been cleared in the energetic dimension. The signs you are noticing are not behind the movement. They are ahead of it. Something is preparing to arrive. It will come in the way that all genuinely significant moments arrive. Not at the time you have been most carefully watching for it, not dressed in the particular form your imagination has rehearsed, but suddenly, in an ordinary moment that the universe has selected with a precision your planning mind could never have achieved. In a moment when your guard has relaxed into the naturalness of simply living your life. When you have arrived at precisely the quality of presence and self-possession that makes receiving it possible. The return will find you when you are ready to be found. It may be sudden, a message arriving in the early hours, stripped of the usual social architecture, carrying no smooth preamble or carefully constructed opening, just the raw, unmediated impulse of someone who has been resisting reaching out for so long that when the resistance finally breaks, it breaks completely, all at once, without the careful management they had intended to apply. It may be unexpected, arriving through a channel you were not monitoring, appearing in a context that gives it the particular quality of destiny rather than decision. It may be overwhelming in its honesty, not because they have prepared what to say, but because in the moment of finally moving toward you, they find that all the rehearsed words dissolve, and what remains is only the truth, bare and unorchestrated, and more powerful for being neither polished nor planned. No rehearsed words, just raw truth. This is what genuine transformation produces when it finally moves from the interior world into the space between two people. Not performance, not strategy, not the careful navigation of someone managing their image, but the simple, devastating honesty of a person who has arrived, through all the difficulty of their interior journey, at the place where the fear of losing you has finally, permanently surpassed the fear of being seen by you. They will come back changed, not unrecognizable. The essence that you knew, the essence that your soul recognized, will be entirely present, perhaps more present than it has ever been, but carrying a depth and a settledness in their own skin that the previous version of them could not sustain. The transformation, the silence, contained will be visible. You will see it in the quality of their presence, in the steadiness with which they meet your eyes, in the way they speak about what happened with neither performance of guilt nor defensive revision of the truth. This is the return that has been prepared in the silence. This is the version of them that your soul always saw coming, even when your heart was living inside the hardest chapters of the waiting. If someone you know is living inside their own silence right now, send this to them, because this message was meant to find more than just you. There is a profound truth that lives at the center of this entire experience, a truth that the waiting has been quietly teaching you even through the difficulty of its lessons, a truth that your soul has been absorbing in the months of silence, even while your mind was occupied with the louder curriculum of longing and confusion and the patient, difficult work of simply continuing to choose yourself each day, when the easier choice would have been to collapse entirely into the grief of their absence. You have already won by choosing yourself, not as a consolation prize, not as the lesser achievement that you settle for in the absence of what you truly wanted, but as the supreme achievement, the one that all the rest of this experience was ultimately organized to produce in you. Their return is inevitable. The energetic, psychological, and spiritual forces that have been described in everything that has unfolded in this message are real forces. And they are moving in the direction of reunion with a momentum that fear can delay but ultimately cannot prevent. But your peace, your genuine, rooted, unshakable peace, is not dependent on that return. And this is the most powerful realization available to you in this moment. The waiting becomes something entirely different when you understand that it is not a suspended state, not an incomplete chapter in which your real life waits to begin, but the full living present of your existence, rich with its own lessons, its own beauty, its own sovereign completeness. There is a cosmic paradox embedded in the architecture of genuine soul connection, and it operates with the precision of a natural law. The less you need them, the faster they come. Not because need is shameful, not because desire is a weakness to be overcome, but because the energetic frequency of desperation and contraction repels what the frequency of wholeness and expansion draws effortlessly near. You're becoming your full uncompromised investment in the person you are choosing to be in the absence of their presence is not a strategy to accelerate their return, though it will. It is the completion of your own soul's current chapter. The fulfillment of the purpose this experience has been quietly serving in your own deepest becoming. Tend to yourself. Inhabit your life completely. Stand in your own light so fully and so genuinely that you become impossible to resist, not for their sake, but for your own. The universe is watching, and it responds to wholeness. This story is not finished. Hear this not as the offering of false comfort to a wound that is asking for honesty, but as the precise, unornamental spiritual truth that the entire arc of what you have lived through this silence has been pointing toward, the truth that every synchronicity has been confirming, and every 3 a.m. moment of clarity has been delivering, if only you were willing to receive it beneath the louder noise of the fear. What is genuinely written between two souls in the language of the collective unconscious does not resolve itself in silence and disappearance. It resolves itself in the fullness of what it was always moving toward, even through the long, difficult passages of waiting that the human heart finds so nearly impossible to endure with grace. What is meant for you will not pass you. This is not optimism. This is the fundamental operating principle of the invisible architecture that governs genuine soul contact, the recognition, the contract, the alchemical transformation that two specific frequencies initiate in each other simply by existing in the same space with sufficient presence and authenticity to allow real meeting. These things do not evaporate. They do not dissolve into silence the way ordinary attachments dissolve when the circumstances that sustain them change. They wait. With the patience of something that understands its own inevitability, they wait. See them for a moment as they are preparing to come to you, standing at the threshold of everything the silence has built in them, carrying the full weight of what they have finally, after all the avoidance and all the fear and all the long months of running from the mirror you held up, been able to look at and accept as their own truth. See the vulnerability in their bearing. See the absence of the performance they used to require just to be present. See the rawness of someone who has arrived at you not as an achievement, but as a surrender, the most sacred kind of surrender, the one that comes after the ego has exhausted every alternative and the soul finally, gratefully, takes its proper place as the governing force. This version of them is real. This moment is coming. Not because longing wills it, but because what was genuinely set in motion between you operates on a timetable that belongs to the divine, not the desperate. The silence is not the ending. It never was. Love does not end in silence. It only waits there,